Hello everyone and welcome to today's Callisto Protocol video. I have a feeling some of you might love this one as it has to do with exploring the lore of two different science fiction franchises, of which hold two bad guy corporations and organizations that in some ways you might say are very similar to each other. That being the United Jupiter Company of the Callisto Protocol and the Umbrella Corporation from the Resident Evil franchise. We are going to talk about them both and the lore behind them and why they are so similar to one another. This is just a very fun video to make for you all in case you wanted to know more about both, and also as a slight warning, we will get into minor spoiler details regarding the story of the Callisto Protocol and potentially some things from the Resident Evil movies and games themselves, so you've been warned. If you could also please comment down below your thoughts on all of this information that we talk about today, and if you either did pick up on this connection or did not. Also, to be clear, I don't know if Glen Schofield and Striking Distance Studios took inspiration from it, so this is all going off based what I gathered from my thoughts and my research. Alright, so let's start with the United Jupiter Company, and give a background behind the lore of who they are and what they do. By the year 2319, in the city of Chicago on Earth, a group of scientists provided an enormous amount of funding for more biolab tech research underneath the city. Now, first and foremost, let me just say that last part right there sounds very familiar, and also this kind of confirms a theory I had originally that Earth is still around in this universe in this year in some form or fashion. I had originally thought that because so many other characters in the game are from different moons orbiting Jupiter, I had thought that maybe Earth was not the same as it is in real life, where people still live on it, but that confirms they do. In the wake of artificial intelligence, the scientists provided enough data and benefits for the United States government. This manipulation caused their natural involvement into their trip into space and on the surface of Callisto, Europa, and as well as many other colonies around Jupiter. The scientists eventually formed the United Jupiter Company as a way to welcome new inhabitants of all species. Okay, hold up one second. Are there actual aliens that humans collaborate with in this universe? That can make for an interesting video in the future because I did not know this piece of information before reading it out. The company grew into a large powerhouse with many ships holding cargo of resources such as a UJC medical supply, as well as the company investing in new AI technology of security units to help manage with and in many conflicts with its moons. I imagine and assume that those are the big robots that you see in the game that are the ones guarding the cells. In order to solve the coming conflict of crime soaring through the air, the company would later build a massive prison on the surface of Callisto on top of the original colony and would later require a mysterious virus capable of becoming the next step in human evolution. So damn. Well, that is certainly a lot of information to take in, some of which makes sense and also some of which I was pretty shocked by. So first of all, again, I am just so taken aback by that one sentence that involves new inhabitants of all species being welcomed. Like, straight up, are there actual aliens that interact with humans in this universe? I would absolutely love to see that in a story DLC if that is the case, and I want to see it be explored. But of course, a lot of the information that I did read off makes a lot of sense considering how corrupt this company is and how terrible they are to human beings, since we know for a fact that they treat the prison with such terrible conditions like it's a concentration camp. At the same time, the part at the beginning where I talked about how they were funding a biotech lab underneath the city of Chicago sounds very similar to the main crux of what the Umbrella Corporation did with Raccoon City. The Umbrella Corporation was a multinational conglomerate with subsidiaries active in a variety of industries from the 80s all the way to the 2000s. They had influence in the production and sale of cosmetics, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, industry, machine production, consumer products, health foods, the transportation industry, and tourism. Though they were involved in all this, a lot of their activities were mainly built to cover up illegal activity. Umbrella began developing biological weaponry for militaries across the world as a part of a worldwide conspiracy to accumulate deadly viruses. And of course, as we know from the lore of the Resident Evil franchise, from the games to even that first movie with Mila Jovovich, and the modern one, which I've heard is not that great, for example, they all still explored the Raccoon City situation and outbreak. Now, essentially, the Umbrella Corporation put a lab underneath Raccoon City where they tested on viruses and vaccines, and in the end, a virus got out, killing everyone, and this subsequently was the reason for how it was able to get out in the first place. And we did see that with the very first movie, and as well as the very first few games, where they explore this as well. So as we can see here, there are just a lot of similarities between both companies and what they eventually did in their own stories to create havoc and these outbreaks, while also creating propaganda around how they probably are the best company there is. As a matter of fact, Resident Evil Apocalypse, regardless how people might feel about that movie's quality, did give us a sneak piece of propaganda in its marketing campaign for its teaser trailer, which was essentially an advertisement from the Umbrella Corporation showcasing its products and making it seem like they were all good. And comparing that with the United Jupiter Company, as we know from the Helix Station podcast, which is a prequel series that takes place before the Callisto Protocol, we would hear propaganda commentary as audio while listening to the UJC, who would throw in trying to recruit people to join the company. Another similarity, as we touched on already, between the two is that they both built property on and around other locations. Umbrella built their lab underneath Raccoon City, while the UJC built their Black Iron prison on top of an old colony that was on the moon previously. In some cases, we almost kind of see similarities to that type of thing in real life as well, where we know that here in the United States, we would see corporations or houses be built on Native American tribal lands or on top of old cemeteries. I mean, hell, even the original Poltergeist film from 1982 was in that exact same plot. It literally was that the ghosts and spirits that are seen in the film are because of the fact that an establishment was built on a former cemetery. And so as we see here, these are all just very similar things to one another that take inspiration from each other. This is very much the case with the United Jupiter Company and Umbrella Corporation, two very corrupt corporations that ultimately in the end saw themselves in the middle of outbreaks that would put them under if the word got out. Of course, we know what happened to the Umbrella Corporation as they benefited from it all while everybody else lost. What I also just love so much about talking about the UJC, for example, is that they discovered the virus and the outbreak through an actual legit alien on the moon of Callisto, where in the old colony of Arcus that they built the prison on top of discovered it while they were digging through the moon's surface. They picked off larvae from this alien that had died and brought it out to do research on, and kind of like how the Umbrella Corporation was doing research on their own viruses. Essentially, it is a tale of two corporations meddling with something that they shouldn't have, and it caused an issue that killed so many people while creating these bio-creations and monsters. So again, all this is just really fascinating when making this comparison, because I think when a lot of people think of different zombie-like and science fiction franchises when it comes to really corrupt and bad corporations, the Umbrella Corporation specifically is maybe the biggest one yet for Resident Evil. Like, it just feels like everybody knows them. Here with United Jupiter Company, it feels like we kind of see a lot of the Umbrella Corporation in them. Of course, there are many differences to each. They are not literally similar in every way. I really like how both went about doing things differently with how they discovered the viruses and how they were just both corrupt in their own ways, specifically considering one takes place in the modern era on Earth and one takes place in a very futuristic setting in space. And so there you have it, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, another lore-based video discussing and comparing two different corporations from two different science fiction franchises. Again, I really like the thought that went into this from Glen Schofield and everyone over at Striking Distance Studios. While yes, we've kind of seen this plot done before many times, I do like that it was done its own way, and of course it is taking place in space. I feel like we don't see that many type of virus outbreaks take place in that setting. We know the Dead Space franchise did the whole thing considering these are the creators of Dead Space, and so they are just putting a new spin on everything here in the Callisto Protocol. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to drop a like and comment down below what your thoughts are on this, and if you at any one point caught onto this when playing, or if this was all new to you and you like the comparisons that I was making. If you are new to this channel as well, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I would very much appreciate that. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Have fun with your playthroughs of the game. This is Orion, and I'm signing out.